everyone, welcome back to another Exo Heroes video. Today we are going to be doing something a little bit different and hopefully very useful for you guys, and that is going to be a Signature Force ranking tier list guide video. So essentially what we're going to be doing today is going over each of these signature forces. Now we know that Greenland hasn't officially been released at the time of this recording, and we will make a note of that later on. But for now, we're just going to go through all of them as if they were out, and then just talk about which one we think is the most efficient, the most bang for your buck, as now, because there are so many ways to get heroes, you can get them through scouting, embodiment of avarice, PvP, and the monthly tickets. So now the game gives you the option to be able to choose which general you want. So it's a lot easier for you to pick and choose which signature force to go for. So we're gonna have Hal kick us off at the bottom of the list with Brunn.
So with Brunn right now, there's a lot to unpack here. But actually, the reason why we ranked Brunn at the bottom of the list is not necessarily because we think the region is terrible, but it's mainly because the region has yet been developed quite as much as the rest of the areas we've seen. Brunn currently have only 3 fated heroes and a few rare heroes and a couple magical heroes, so there really isn't a lot of heroes that you can play with in Brunn, and it's Dorka, Naomi, Kylak are essentially your 3 choices. Dorka is obviously very good. We do see her be useful in just so many areas of the game, so is Naomi as well. Kylak, we have our reservations about him, but he can definitely, help you out in PvE areas as well. So those 3 heroes are not bad. But that's all you get. Compared to a lot of the regions we'll mention later on, there's 6, 7, or maybe even 10 heroes that are useful. Brunn just doesn't quite stack up because it's not yet fully developed. So we're just gonna put Brunn at number 6 right now, but we'll come back and revisit that later as the region continues to get developed. So now we'll move on to number 5, and that's gonna be Lenombe. I'll shift it back to Edward.
So a lot of you guys might be pretty surprised to see Lenombe at number 5, which is technically last place considering Brunn only has 3 heroes. But let me explain the rationale here. So if you look at all of the heroes, and you can see which heroes belong to which nation in the Dora creation, and if you look at these heroes, you'll notice which heroes are actually going to be able to take advantage of Signature Force and be useful throughout the game. So for Lenombe specifically, we obviously have Rachel. He's a general, he's got a couple Fate cores, very solid in PvE and PvP content, and we've seen him come into PvP with the Rachel Force comp, where people run FC Rachel, Baraka, and First Guardian Xeon for a lot of those early round, bursty, one-shot kind of comps. And we admit that this is a very strong comp and it's been very effective for the players that run it. However, Lenombe is low on our list because that's just about all they have to offer. Outside of Rachel, Baraka, Xeon, there's not really any other heroes that stand out to us. We could say Morris, Shah Khan, Bernavas, Mahar could see some use, especially the tanks. They get tankier with the 15%, 30% attack, defense, and HP buffs, as well as benefiting from the flat damage that elemental damage provides. With that having been said, we don't think that they're amazing. We're not going to see these heroes in PvP, and in PvE we think that they have limited potential as far as how much content they're actually useful in compared to some of the other regions, which we'll be talking about next. For instance, Wasted Red.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Wasted Red, it's just like you said. We still have a couple of very solid heroes here, similar to Lenombe, right? Where Lenombe had Rachel plus Xeon, Baraka. Here we have Garth, which is a very solid hero in both PvP and PvE, and a top tier hero in many situations. And you couple that with Rutley, whether it's the base Rutley for bursty damage or with FC Rutley for a lot of that sustain added utility. That's a very good combination. And you have FC Annie as well, which has been a mainstay in PvP for many generations of meta so far. So the top 3 heroes are definitely good. But compared to Lenombe, we also think the rest of the heroes here, or the second tier heroes, are also just a little bit better. Right? We have FC Otard, which we do think has potential in PvP situations, especially with elemental damage unlocked, even if you cannot fully take advantage of her passive with stuns and things like that. She can still do quite hefty damage. And you have FC Hacken, which is a pretty solid Vanguard Fate core with additional damage and quick speed. And you have Maggie, who can bring you a lot of utility in PvE areas with her First Guardian Fate Core, the shielding, and AoE damage, so things like that. So we do think the overall value of these heroes bring just ever so slightly edges out the heroes from Lenombe. So we're putting Wasted Red at number 4 on our list. But now, compared to these, our top 3 are much better, and I'm going to shift it back to Edward to start that out with Greenland.
So as we start coming into the top 3 of this list, you'll start to notice a pretty significant change. As Hal mentioned, this is about the efficiency of the heroes, how they utilize Signature Force, and then also how many heroes are useful in other types of content, because we're trying to evaluate the overall value of each Signature Force. Now, with that having been said, if we look at the heroes, we have Bathory, Rira, Tantalo, and these 3 are going to be PvP mainstays. We've seen Bathory, we know what she could do, the old Queen of Exos, dethroned recently by Dorka, but with Signature Force, she could be making a comeback. Then obviously we have Rira. FC Rira's been dominating the meta for a while now. We still see her every once in a while, and we think that potentially she could make a comeback with Bathory's Signature Force and FC Jinai. Tantalo, again, we've been seeing him as a soft counter to the first round burst comps. His crit negation and damage immunity after crit is very valuable, and obviously he's quite tanky himself, comes with Heart Strike and dots to help proc it. So these 3 are going to be the top value heroes in Greenland Signature Force. But moving on, we also think that heroes like Eden, Ulum, Talia, and Chatty also have a lot of value, specifically in PvE. We don't really have to talk about Talia and Chatty too much. Obviously they're going to be mainstays in your Holy Dragon Grounds run, and especially because they have abilities. Talia has healing, and Chatty has barrier that scales off of HP. So once you get to the higher tiers of Signature Force where you're getting 15%, 30% HP defense and attack buffs, then the scaling on these abilities is just going to be that much more efficient. Eden, you see him with a lot of use in potentially the Lunatic challenges, as well as some of the special dungeon days if you're not quite a Lunatic yet. Ulum, a solid tank. Obviously, the percentage increase on his defense is going to be high considering Ulum's already the highest defense hero, and being a tank, even though his attack scaling on his abilities is high, he still might not do that much base damage, so he gets a lot of value out of the flat defense ignoring damage that elemental damage brings. Now, the rest of the heroes, we don't think they take as much advantage of Signature Force as some of the legendary or fated in this tier, but this is going to be the case for all of the Signature Force trees, so why don't we move on to number 2, which is going to be Estoris Republic.
Yeah, but before we move on, I just want to also add in one additional comment about Greenland. So I think Edward alluded to this at the very beginning of the video, talking about Greenland is not yet out. And there is one concern that we do have about Greenland is Greenland, given that its general is Bathory, who is a frost hero, that means all the elemental damage will do frost damage. And as we all know, currently in the game there's this thing called Summer Festa Fate Core with its Summer's Blasting passive, so we don't know exactly how that's going to work. Will the elemental damage be blocked by Summer's Blasting, or will it not? We're not 100% sure. Our current hypothesis is that it will likely get blocked, so which is another reason why we have Greenland a little bit lower on the ranking. But obviously this is still yet to be determined, and we'll come back with more detail once we figure that out. But now, with that being said, let's move on to our next one on the list, which is Estoris Republic. So Estoris Republic, if we take away the whole frost elemental damage aspect, I think we think it's pretty close with Greenland. We do think the heroes here just ever so slightly edges out the heroes in Greenland a little bit. At the top of the list, we think the 3 heroes that will benefit from Signature Force the most here is going to be Jinai, D.Va, and Jhin. And we do think Jinai and D.Va are going to make a pretty profound mark in PvP areas for you in the coming weeks. D.Va has tremendous damage, especially her Fate Core with her A2 can do amazing damage just with the base skill itself. Now you add on top of that elemental damage, that can kill off just about anyone. And then you have Jinai, which we believe brings tremendous amount of utility both in PvP and PvE, and could be a hero that the meta is revolved around for quite a few weeks to come. So those 2 heroes are great, and obviously you have FC Jhin as well, who is a premium damage dealer in PvP areas. So we think these 3 heroes very, very good. Maybe just edges out the Bathory Rira combination from Greenland a little bit. And then you look at the tier 2 heroes here. FC Adams is a pretty solid alternative if you don't have FC Jin. You also have Emma, who can be a very solid hero for you in the Dragon Holy Grounds because she is one of the head Dragon Knights. And then you have a pretty solid tank in FC Luke and a solid PvE hero in FC Baelish. And we all know with the synergy Fate Core, Luke's Fate Core will come out relatively soon. So there's a lot to be seen there as well. So overall, we think the top 3 heroes in Estoris is really good, and it's got a pretty nice supporting cast to go with that as well, both in PvP and PvE situations. So overall, a very solid region and number 2 on our list. But now with that being said, let's move on to the number 1 on our list, and it's no surprise going to be North from Frosty.
Right, so coming into it, our number 1 spot here, if you look at the heroes coming from North von Frosty, I think it'll give you a good idea of why this is the number 1 spot. Starting off, we have Shufraken, and then look at the supporting cast that he has, so strong. You have Ramga, Valentina, Brooke, Reed Marie, Iris, Lepin, and these are all heroes that have had their stay in PvP. They've been rotating in and out of the meta. Shufraken Iris has been a staple forever. Lepin, very strong in PvP and PvE. Reed Marie, potentially coming in, has great synergy already with Jinai. Brooke, again, is having his day here with the Shufraken signature force and run as a sort of auxiliary damage dealer. We just have such a stacked roster of heroes that have seen their day in PvP meta, and this is why we think that North von Frosty is such a versatile signature force tree to go for. There's so many heroes, they're all proven to be strong, and that's not even talking about the PvE heroes like Anastasia, Degas, and Karina, and the new FC Monica that's going to be coming out that we don't have details for yet. So overall, we have so many heroes here that can be used in PvP, that can be used in PvE, that can be used in both situations, and also these little mysteries like Monica, who we're not sure how she'll slot in yet, but she's definitely going to be a contender. And then, obviously, you could keep going down the list. We have Bernadette, Sharpay, Alexei, Astarte. Now, these aren't going to be your tier 1 heroes, maybe not even tier 2, but they're reliable tier 3s. If you have them, Signature Force will benefit them. If they're the best heroes you have, it's just going to give you that straight boost. Whereas you look back at some of the other heroes on our list, for instance, from Wasted Red, you have people like Pitbull and Valar. They're not going to be used in PvP, they're not going to be used in PvE. From Estoris Republic, you have Shell, Taria, Pan. These heroes, even with Signature Force, are just not going to see any use. But North von Frosty is full of heroes that if you just give them that little stat boost, if you just give them elemental damage, it can help them shine. And so that's why North von Frosty takes our number 1 spot.
Yep, I agree. Definitely North von Frosty, very solid region and clearly the best in our opinion. But with that being said, this is going to be it for us on this topic. We do have a spreadsheet with all the information on this, so we'll be sharing that with all of you guys. If you want to see it, check the link in the description down below. You can see all the heroes broken down into their respective region, as well as our ranking for them, as well as, you know, some of our notes about why they're good, why they're not. So check those out, might come in handy for you guys. But with that, that's going to be it for us today on this topic. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully this has been proven useful for you guys. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Otherwise, we've got a lot of Exo Hero related videos coming out, as well as Genshin Impact videos coming out as well. So stay tuned for those, and we'll see you in the next video very soon.